cute interlude that we have, the little music, and
This is More Than 5%, a podcast dedicated to covering the stories of women in sports. Whatever the sport, whatever the role, everyone is welcome. Now, let's join our hosts, Zoe Hicks and Carly Jackson, for a weekly conversation with women who inspire.
Check.
check.
1, 2, 3, check.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to More Than 5%. Today, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We are exactly halfway in our season. Our plan is to get to about 18 to 20 episodes, and right now we're at episode 9. So we're going to take a little bit of a break with our guests and just simply shoot the shit. There's been a couple times where we've just gone on tangents, ranted about topics. And yeah, this is just going to be a compilation of all those times. Us chatting, us getting ideas out there, and just hashing everything out. But as always, we gotta start with some good shit.
Well, huge fan of shit shooting over here. My good shit, it didn't happen today, but it's happened recently, and it's something that I'm very excited about, is I have dropped my new helmet off to be painted. So recently I've been wearing a bright blue one that really conflicts with the red, black, and gold coloring of the Toronto Six. So I've been wearing, bright baby blue, but a new one is on the way, and it was really fun designing it. And I was able to put in a couple of special touches that I'm really excited about. So that is my good shit.
Nice. And I'm assuming when we get that back, we will post pictures on our Instagram of the new mask. So be sure to follow us over there at More Than 5PCT. My good shit is I recently started a new job at Lululemon, and I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. I feel like a little nerd saying that I love a retail job, but it's like the whole job is just talking to people. Like you just get to like connect with people and just like ask them if they need your help, like educate them on the products. I love Lulu. I've always been a Lulu girly. So it's super easy to just be like, yeah, I love these. You should get these. So yeah, I started my training sessions on Monday and Tuesday. And then tonight I have my first official shift as a Lululemon educator. So that is my good shift.
Oh, hell yeah. It probably feels very genuine because you like the brand so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just get paid to talk.
Yeah.
And as everyone knows,
just like this,
I can freaking talk. I can talk like the best of them. Anyway, I just want to take a moment to appreciate everyone who listens to our episode on a weekly basis. We're so thankful for you. We love this platform that we have. However, tiny it may be, this is a passion of both of ours to just get more stories out there, more experiences out there, talk about women in sport. So yeah, thank you so much for being along with us.
Yeah, love the people. We are mighty. I love it. I think this has been a really fun experience. I'm having a blast just getting to know people and getting to hype them up a bit and just hear their stories. I think that's kind of the best part, is when you can see the passion or the excitement just ignite in somebody's eyes. I think that's probably been my favorite part so far, but really enjoying this. It's a good time.
Alrighty, well, so without further ado, welcome to the Shoot the Shit episode. It kind of will be all over the place. There'll be topics bouncing from one to another, but hope you appreciate it, hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Okay, so as a lot of you may have seen on either the MLB app or ESPN app or all over your social medias, as women in baseball made history this past week. So Olivia Pichardo becomes the first NCAA Division I female student athlete. She plays baseball at Brown University, which Brown is an Ivy League. So that's impressive in itself. You're walking onto a baseball team at an Ivy League, that's ridiculous. So shout out to Olivia for being a fucking badass. You might already know, and if you don't, look her up. Marika Lisick plays Division II baseball, so she's blazed that trail, done those things, been the first to play NCAA baseball, and now Olivia is the first to play NCAA Division I baseball. She most recently just got, invited onto the team for the spring semester after working her tail off in the fall. So shout out to Olivia Pichardo for being a badass and blazing a trail for women in collegiate baseball, women in baseball in general, get it.
Yeah, I want to bring up how impressive it is that she walked onto the team as a freshman. Any walk-on spot is difficult to achieve. Any roster spot at Division I level is insane to achieve. There's such a small percentage of athletes that make it through. So to be able to show up as a freshman, just being able to own it and go in there and crush it and impress the coaches enough and to stand out enough that they're like, we need you on our roster, that's insane. That is so cool and such a challenging thing to do. So freaking well done. That's just so excited to watch you. So excited I'll definitely be following Brown a lot more closely this season. So looking forward to seeing her play, and I just think it's pretty amazing accomplishment and a lot of fun to be a fan of.
Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about Olivia's story, I'm going to post a bunch of articles to our link tree, to our social media accounts. So if you follow us, you can then follow that story, and we will be keeping everyone updated on that this year. So we're going to move on to a PHF recap. CJ, as everyone knows, is a goaltender for the Toronto Six. She talks about it every day, every second that she possibly can. So yeah, give us a little recap on the first 2 weekends of the season, how it went, how you're feeling, all the good shit.
Well, you know how like something happens to you and then it becomes your entire personality? That's me with the Toronto Six.
No, really?
No, it's been great. It's been a great start so far. There's been a couple of weekends. There's a bit of discrepancy between teams that have played and haven't played. There was a cancellation this week between the Connecticut Whale and the Buffalo Buttes. So those games were rescheduled because there was a hell of a snowstorm in Buffalo, which was crazy because here in Toronto, so we flew out on the Friday and there was no snow whatsoever. Nothing's on the ground. Meanwhile, in Buffalo, their cars are buried and the highways are closed down. They can't get out even if they wanted to. So I feel very lucky that we got to play, but those games will be rescheduled for the Buttes and the Whale. So far for the Six, I mean, we're good start. We're 3-1. We had a good weekend against the Rivs. They're hard to play against as always, and we were playing for my first time in a mall. The rink is in the America Dream Mall on Long Island, New York. It was just insane. Like it was just there's a lot going on. The first thing I would like to say about it is the ceiling is all glass, so it's a lot of natural light. So the rink was so bright. So I was like in warm-ups, I was like, oh my God, like I wish I had some sunglasses or something. It was a different experience, but it was really, really fun. There was a lot going on.
Did it almost feel like an outdoor game? Because I
It felt
know,
like an outdoor game.
yeah, when we talked about the outdoor game, you're like, yeah, it's outside, there's a bunch of sunlight, like it's just a different atmosphere. It was like that.
Yeah, it was very, very much like that. And it was hot. It was super hot, but I kind of like that. Like I'm a sweater, like I like to sweat. So I personally like loved it. I like the heat. Like I went in and I think in the third period of the first game and my hands and toes, I could feel them. So I was, it was a positive to be able to not be freezing your limbs off. So but I think it was a pretty good experience. There's so much going on. Like I remember, I don't know if it was warm-ups or if it was during one of the games, I had just kind of taken a look around and there was a giant, probably like, I don't know, like 10-foot giraffe mascot walking around and I couldn't stop looking at it. So I think it was a sponsorship for Toys R Us and they were, handing out gift bags and goodie bags and things like that. But I'm like, I just kept kind of double taking because I would see this thing walking around. It's got a huge head and it's taller than everybody else. So there was like a ton of distractions. I think for any opposing teams kind of heading into that rink, just be prepared to try and shut everything else off because it's like distractions times a million in any experience I've ever had. But it actually did kind of remind me of the outdoor game in terms of the lighting and it being a different atmosphere compared to a typical rink. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool having like all the fans there and a lot of eyes on the product of the game. So very interesting, but I think, hopefully it'll bring a lot of people into the sport. So very, very cool experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you're not going to mention this, so I will. Debut for the Toronto Six, first start, as well as your first win. So kind of like talk about that and talk about, like how the transition has been to Toronto, how, you feel like you've meshed with that team and how it means to you to be able to like contribute in a way of like, I started, I won. This is, a good situation.
No, it was really fun. It's really, really fun. I love to play, right? So, it's been I would say it's been kind of a different role for me this year where I'm kind of I'm a backup to Elaine Chuli, who's just a phenomenal goaltender. But, in the past 6 years of my life, I think if I played in 150 games, I've probably started in 140. So I've been very used to just kind of going every weekend and just kind of trying to make a way through with having a solid performance and being consistent just over such a long span of time. So it's been really fun to actually learn a bit of a different role. And it's been such a positive experience. And I've had like just a lot of fun being able to contribute in a different way. And I think that my personality has been able to shine a little bit more, being involved with the team, even just being on the bench, right? Being on the door and just interacting with people as they come off their shift or, we're shooting the shit about certain plays in between periods or, people are just picking each other's brains and playing a different role within the team has been really fun. And I've really enjoyed being a part of this team and being able to contribute any way that I can. So getting in and, getting my first start, I mean, that was just really fun. I had a good time. Had some friends and family there and I just really enjoyed the whole experience. So really just kind of grasping onto everything I can to be able to contribute. But I think something that our coach Jer has said quite a few times is how much every role matters. And I think that is so important in great teams, is that it's not all about, let's say the power play or the first line or whatever it is. Like it takes an entire unit of people just doing really fucking good at what they do. That's how you win over a long period of time. And being in Toronto, I'm like, man, this is how you do it. So it's fun to be a part of. I feel like I'm getting better every day. Really enjoying being at the rink every day, and I'm excited to see what we do. And at the time of this recording, we're going into a weekend against the Boston Pride, who are in first place. We're currently in second place. So I just think it's going to be a hell of a weekend. It's going to be really fun hockey. My family's coming to watch. Got some family and friends coming. So I'm pretty thrilled. But I'm having a great time with the Six.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for anyone who has, found themselves in a role that they might not have envisioned, like hockey or otherwise, like you're not the starter, you don't get the most minutes that you thought you were going to get, or, the most innings or playing time or whatever, just to find ways to contribute. I've had so many conversations with athletes that I've coached that they're like, but I can't help like in the box or on the field. And I'm like, but you can help in so many other ways. Like you have eyes that don't need to be focused on the ball. You can be focused on other things like player positioning, and if you have to pick signs or a pitch tip, like there's so many different things that you can do to contribute. You can stand beside your specific position coach and just talk things through. Like I've had catchers glued to the hip of their catching coaches and like talking about what pitches they'd call and how they set this up and how they do this batter because he does this thing. Like there's so many ways that you can, one, learn as a human, and two, contribute to your team from the dugout or from the bench or from the sideline. And it doesn't always have to be on the field or on the ice. Like I think that's such good advice of like find ways that you as a person can contribute. There's not always going to be that person that's like super outgoing, they're cheering, they're loud, they're whatever. If you're not that person, find other ways to be helpful, find other ways to contribute. And I think that's a huge lesson that people can learn, and I'm glad you brought that up.
No, I have more to add on to this. I think this
Go
is
ahead. Oh my gosh.
because I think and I think there's a lot of like attention and hype and whatever about when you're playing a lot and maybe you have a good game or you make a big save or you make a nice play, and that can be addicting in a sort of way. But it's like finding ways to have fun outside of the glorious roles, right? There's a lot of thankless jobs, but I think the most important thing, and I think that gives or the thing that gives a lot of fulfillment, is that the people you're doing it with every day, like those things matter to each other. Like if you're maybe you're not in the role that you envisioned, right? Or whatever it is, something maybe you wish were different. I think there's a lot of focus on wishing it were different instead of enjoying the positives that come with where you're at right now. And I think that is so applicable and such a general statement to like anything. But let's say in this position, right, where you're your door opener, right? Like there's so much enjoyment to be able to talk to your teammates and talk through situations. And I'm learning so much about systems and forwards. Like if I'm on the forward door, I'm watching the forwards. I'm not even really watching the play, but I've been learning so much about movements and reading plays and driving the net and just things like that. It's been a really enjoyable experience. And honestly, maybe a year or two ago, maybe even longer than that, I don't know if I thought I would have had this much fun playing in a role like this, but I'm having a great time. And I feel like getting better every week. I'm getting to learn from like an amazing goaltender, Lane Shuley. And it's just, I feel like I'm just being supported in such an awesome way that this team is just continuing to get better every week. And I think that in itself is incredibly rewarding, fulfilling, and fun. So it's a different role, but it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I think about when you look back at sports, you don't really remember like, oh, this player, oh, this game. Like you might remember a couple, but you remember like the teammate in the locker room that was like, like dancing and singing and whatever. Like those fun moments you'll remember. And so on the flip side, and on the flip side of that, everyone hates an energy sucker. So if there's someone who like thinks they should have more playing time, and then they're like pouting because they're not getting that playing time, and then they're just like, grouchy all the time. Like you don't want to be around that person. You don't want to feed into that. There's so many things that you're like, oh, like tiptoeing around that person, whatever. Nobody likes those people. So if you're in that situation and like your options are like, I either am a total shithead and I make everyone's day worse because it's all about me, or I flip the switch and I go, you know what, might not be playing, my energy can be used elsewhere. Like I'm super outgoing. I'm going to sing this karaoke song while we're getting ready in the locker room to hype everybody up, whatever. Just be you and be yourself in that situation. Don't let that outcome or don't let that situation like drain you and drain everyone around you, basically like, fuck it. Like, I'm okay, cool. Like, I might not be the best for this job to play left field today, but
Yeah.
I am the best at my job of hyping people up, or,
Yeah.
getting people ready. Or if someone's base running, like, I have their glove right when they go play defense. Like, those people,
those
you
little
remember
cues.
those people. It's for the team. It's for
Yeah.
the team. The person who's like sitting there, like pouting, like clapping, being grumpy, that's for them. That's for themselves. So, I mean, like, you remember those people. You totally remember those people that they did, like, nothing was for themselves. They were like, getting the shit out of the stick. They're not getting the looks. They're not getting the playing time, whatever. They're still doing everything that's in their power to help their teammates. Like, I've had so many people like that come to mind right now that, like, they're a backup catcher, but they're also older than the person who's starting. They're not sitting there being like, well, it should be me because I'm older, or I'm this or I'm that. Like, they're helping their person out. They're saying, hey, like, I noticed this hitter was doing this thing. Like, maybe we can work together to formulate a good plan, like, blah, blah, blah. I think it's so important. It's a team sport at the end of the day. Like, you're not playing singles tennis. You're not playing golf. Like, what we're talking about is like team sport. Even golf's on a team. Like, if you're grouchy about your hit and like pissing everybody else off, you're affecting them. So, I mean,
exactly. If you have crew energy, everybody feels it. You can feel it in the air, right?
yeah. And like, you sign up for a team. You sign up for the situation, like, for people to hold you accountable, for you to be there for the team. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like, what can you do for this team?
Yeah, and I think in general, honestly, and I think I see this all the time in youth sport, right? Where there's so much validation and people feel valuable only if they score a goal or only if they play a lot, and they associate worth with performance and playing time. And that is just not the case, like, at all. And it's like some of the best people, some of the best athletes, some of the best just experiences that I have had have come from just the opposite of that, right? Those quiet moments and those experiences that make you feel a lot of shit, which, it doesn't necessarily mean scoring a hat trick every game. Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit unrealistic. If anybody scores a hat trick every game, well done. That would actually be pretty special. But just finding different ways to have fun, I think, is just the coolest thing. And understanding that there's value beyond statistics and value beyond scoring that goal or whatever. Sometimes it's like, even just watching through clips and plays, and something, I've learned playing sports, and especially at this level and recently, something I've taken a lot of notice of is typically even the pretty goals, there's almost always a gritty or a beautiful play made by another member on the team who might not get an assist or might not get a whatever. It could have been 2 minutes prior to the actual play. It could have been 10 seconds prior, but who have made either like a nice net drive, have taken another player out of the play, or like done something that most people wouldn't notice that end up being like one of the nicest plays of the game. And they don't necessarily get net recognized, but the people you do it with are like, that was a great net drive, or man, that was an incredible screen. That's why, that was half the reason why the goal went in, or whatever it is, or something was accomplished. And I think that societally, we put a lot of value into the final product, when in reality, I think what matters, and no matter what you do, is how you do it and what gets you to the success. It's not a secret when you look at it that way. When you look at the breakdown of the teams and the people that are a part of it and what they're doing every day and how they're supporting each other and how they exist in that space as to why teams are successful. It's not a secret when you break it down. And I think that that's really fun. And I think that's a big reason why I've been enjoying being a member of the Toronto Six so much, is because, I'm seeing the good things that we're doing and that lead up to these beautiful goals and these nice plays and these gritty wins. And I think that's what makes it so fun as an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, in a team environment, you see those things kind of behind the scenes, situations where, like, you're working on something in practice and then in a game that situation comes up and they come through.
Oh my God.
I love that. That is like one of my favorite things in the world. Is like they worked on it. You saw them put in the work. You saw them like really grind it out. And then when it comes down to like, okay, put up or shut up, they fucking put up. That is my favorite thing in the entire world. And it might be like the smallest things. Like, one thing that comes to mind in baseball, softball is situational hitting. So you have someone on second base on second base, 0 outs. The person grounds out to second base, you move your runner. Next person sack flies, scores the run. That run is to the person who hit the ground ball. Yes. That run is because you did your job. So like situations like that of like, it might not be, a bomb or a double or a great play, but like, you are doing what you need to make your team successful. That is for you. You did your job. Because if you didn't do your job, you strike out, you pop up, whatever. The next person hits a fly ball, not a sack fly. They're at second, maybe they get to third, maybe they don't. Like, your job is done. That run is now like because you did your job. So situations like that where it's not the gritty one, but it's the team one, and they get it done. Oh my God. Oh
Dude,
my God.
That's one of the most beautiful things in sports, I
Yes.
think. And also what makes teams great,
Yeah.
right? It's not just like this one huge crazy play. It's like this buildup of contributions from tons of different people. And it could even go down to like a coach being like, hey, are you rowing the boat right now?
Everybody rows the boat.
Yeah.
That's what it literally, like, everyone is rowing in the same direction. Because even if you have someone like rowing in the opposite direction, you're not getting to your destination as efficiently as you can. So everyone has to row the boat, regardless of what your job is, regardless of like who you are. Everyone is rowing in the same direction. Everyone is giving their all at the time. Everyone is doing what they can to row the boat.
And no, when you break it down, it's insane how much all of those pieces matter, right? Something as simple as like having the water bottles filled.
Or in the weight room,
You know?
pushing someone in the weight room. If you don't lift that much, but the person beside you like is an absolute monster and lifts a shit ton. Like everyone's being like, I think you could go up in weight. Like those things, pushing your teammates, like those little things that are behind the scenes, or a day where they're like, I really don't want to go roll out, like I'm not feeling it, and you're like, let's go, I'll go with you. Those things lead to championships, lead to the culture being expected excellence. And I think that's like, those things are huge. Coming from like a college environment, going to professional, like those little things of like not allowing yourself to slack and not accepting that from your team.
But no, it makes it fun, right? If somebody's like, oh, dude, let's go stretch for 10 minutes, shoot the shit, whatever. Let's go. Hey, will you tip in front for me while I take some shots? Or hey, will you shoot so I can tip? Will you screen me? Whatever. But if somebody's like excited to include people in what you're doing and in the process, dude, that's the best. That's the best type of energy. And I don't think it really matters what you're doing, whether that's sports or a family dinner, you're going out to brunch, you're going to a bookstore. Like, feeling like you belong within your people is the most powerful thing. And just inclusion, just being like, yeah, this is the place for me to be. That is probably the most powerful feeling in one of them in the world. Like, to me, at least, being able to be like, yeah, these are my people, or this is my space. This is where I practice my craft or practice my character or whatever, and feeling, I just think that that's one of the most empowering things in the world. Matters. And that's why inclusion matters. When you break it down to that, fuck.
Yeah. Everyone inherently as a human being just wants to feel involved, wants to feel like they belong. So, I mean, like, thinking about that specific instance, think about the flip side. If I was like, hey, like, let's go stretch, like, blah, 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 and you're like, no. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. We're not on the same level that I thought we were. And now I know that they're going to slack off. I might not trust them in the same way. Yeah. And even in a situation like, I'm really not feeling like I want to go stretch, and the next person goes, you're right, let's not. Then I now know if I want to slack, I go to her because she's going to slack with me. It's easy once you get a group of people that is okay slacking, you then find them, you seek them out, you continue to do the bare minimum because they'll allow it. In that moment, you have a choice. You either like, you could literally, the last thing you want to do is stretch. The last thing you want to do is recover. The last thing you want to do is even like a bike sprint. You have to do the bike sprint that day. That's the last thing you want to do. In that moment, you have a choice. You either allow the slack, allow the lack of accountability, allow like the shitty culture, or you make the choice right now and be like, this is gonna be shitty, but we need to. And it sets a precedent of like, this is expected. Versus the opposite of like, the precedent is, we can do it sometimes and not do it other times. I think that's like, in the moment of that decision making, it's like, this is so much bigger than this decision right now. It's so much bigger than this 20-minute stretch. Like, it is now everything that we do. How you do anything is how you do everything. Super cheesy, but it's cheesy and cliche because it works. It absolutely works. Like, are you going to, set yourself to the high standard of, okay, every day I'm going to make my bed. Every day I'm going to have a clean space. Every day I'm going to show up to my people. Every day I'm going to show up to, like, if I go to the gym that day, I'm showing up with my 100% self, like setting yourself up for that, because it's just an expectation at this point. This is what I do. It's not a question. So I think that like, it boils down to like choices, and, you can choose the right way, or like the right way is probably going to be the hardest way most of the time, like the tough way, the tough conversations, the tough thing to do. But are you going to make that choice and be like disciplined in that to make it happen, or are you going to be okay with, you know, slacking off, and maybe like those things add up also.
Results, I think the results of the game are of multiple games and seasons are reflections of the little things that happen. And you know, this is my own just personal philosophy. I don't think that it needs to, I don't think it's realistic, honestly, to be like, yeah, I fucking love doing bike sprints all the time. Fuck yeah. Like, even I think sometimes for myself, sometimes I'll say it in a very, like, sometimes I'll almost say it in a sarcastic way. I'm like, fuck yeah, I love bike sprints. So let's go. Like, and then I'll be like, oh, fuck. There's one of our players who's just like, she'd be like, okay, girl, like, we're doing shoulders. And we do this like shoulder circuit for like 4 minutes, and I fucking hate it. And I'll say that. Sometimes I'm like, I fucking hate this. Or I'll be like, oh, fuck you, but I love you. You know, because it's like, hey, yeah, we're doing something shitty and annoying and together, but we're doing it together. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing it with my buddies. So, you know, I actually kind of like it. And then I'm like, okay, and now my shoulders are getting big. So I'm like, I actually really like this. You know, but being able to, it doesn't need to be this like perfect picture all the time in order for you to be successful, but to be able to, you know, take life and enjoyment and humor and, you know, whatever those pieces of are your character, that create fulfillment and the things that you do, I think that's ultimately what also matters, and how you get invested in doing the extra work, or invested in doing things the right way. It's not like, oh, because I should. It's like, oh, because these are how I connect with doing the extra bike sprint, or staying 10 minutes and stretching, or doing a shoulder circuit, or sitting down and, you know, just giving a little bit of extra attention to one of your teammates, or whatever. I think that's kind of where the piece comes in, outside
Yeah.
of, hey, this is perfect all the time because
Yeah.
I'm ready to go all the time and I love doing, you know,
Yeah.
everything. And it's like,
Yeah.
yes, you can love parts of that, but it's like keying into what your character, I guess, relates to in those moments.
Yeah, like the guiding principles for your life. So if my personal guiding principles of life are like striving for excellence and integrity, those things are not going to be negotiables in my life. You know what I mean? Like those, that's just not, that's what I do and that's who I am. So situations where it's like, oh, I really don't want to go do this extra workout. But what's important to me is not my feelings in this moment. What's important to me is like striving to be the best that I can be at all times. So
You're
like,
yeah, this is good.
it's good for long term.
Yeah.
Short term, you might hate it in the moment. Like every fiber of my being is like, absolutely not. But for long term me, for what's important, for like this whole overarching, like huge concept of who I am, this is important. It's a small step,
piece by piece. And
piece by piece. Some days you won't have your best. That's a real reality of the situation. Some days you will not have your best. The biggest thing that helps me is like show up.
Yeah.
Even if it's shitty. Show
being
up.
there is everything, man.
Being there, right?
Present is
right.
everything.
Even if you go to the gym, walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes, leave. Like showing up, because once you don't show up, you're like, okay, well, I didn't go yesterday. Like, do I really have to go today? If you show up and you're like, okay, once I'm already there, I might as well do some stuff. Like, show up, even if it's showing up shitty. Like, I know, and I know that sounds terrible, but like, show up always show up. Like, even if you know, you're running on an empty tank, you have no sleep, you didn't have your coffee, like, you know, you ran out of gas, like all these crappy things are happening. Show up. Find a way to show up, because that's important to you, and that's something that you set a goal, and you owe yourself nice things, you owe yourself to take care of your body. Like, there are so many things that just it'll go if you show up, right? If I put on gym clothes, I show up to the gym, I feel like crap. Once I'm there and I'm already sweating, I'm gonna get through a decent workout. Like, I'm already there, I've already done it. But I allow myself to say, like, listen to your body, feel what's right. If I show up and do a treadmill for half an hour, walk like, you know, a hot girl walk on the treadmill, fine. That's totally cool. I'm allowing myself that space to be like, whatever. But I also know that, like, once I'm there, I show up, there's going to be something good that comes of it, even if it's just showing up.
I think something interesting societally is the question of, oh, how are you?
Is societally a word?
I don't know. No, but
okay,
so
you said it earlier, and I was like, but go ahead. Societally.
Right. It's like, oh, how are you? 99% of the time, people are like, oh, yeah, I'm good. They could be having the worst day of their life.
The only acceptable answer is good, because if you say anything else, people will look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
100%.
So what's wrong with being like, feel pretty shitty today, but happy to be here? I just think there's little things like that conversationally, you know, as we navigate as human beings, that are like It's okay to be like, I'm okay today, but I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to step on the ice today, or I'm excited to be in the gym, or I'm excited to see my friends, or, I'm looking forward to dinner after this, or whatever.
Yeah, I can't
But
wait for this to be over. It's like
yeah,
the worst workout ever. You like see the
oh,
workout, you're like, well, I can't wait for this to be done.
oh, dude,
Authentic. That could be exactly what you feel in the moment. Like you're still gonna go, you're still gonna show up, you're still gonna do the damn like you're still gonna do the workout. But
Mhm.
like to be like, hey, like this sounds like it sucks. I'm excited for us to be done. Like those interactions just make it human.
Yes, they do make it human, which I think can be so lost these days.
Yeah.
Being human and
Allowing yourself to be human.
allowing yourself to exist.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel that a lot. Societally, I feel that a lot.
I think the idea behind female sports being inherently gay is that like women in sport are already outside of society's box. So like for women, you're supposed to be fragile, you're supposed to like do what you're told, you're supposed to be all dainty and pretty and whatever. And sports is literally not that. Is inherently the opposite of that. Is like tough and strong and dirty and like, you're sweaty and you're gross and whatever. I think that
Mhm.
because women in sport have already like gone against this idea of like what society thinks you're supposed to be, they're a lot more cool with going against the heteronormative society also. They're like, well, I'm already, a manly
Already
girl or not
outside the
the right
box.
girl. Exactly.
Let's run
I'm
with it.
already outside of the box. I might as well, do what I want to do and like allow myself to be myself,
Yeah.
basically.
I wish I had
Um,
have known as like a younger version of myself that was like the queer community was the biggest supporter of women's sports,
yeah.
because I kid you not, I would have just been over the moon excited about it, because I didn't know this at the time, but before, like I would fantasize about playing and having like girls watch me and
Yeah.
being like, you know what I mean? Be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like my girlfriend's in the state, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
know that I would be, associating that as my girlfriend, but like, oh, there's a girl I like and she's watching me play sports.
Yeah.
Like to know that as a younger version of myself, I think I just would have been over the moon in terms of being queer and being an athlete. It sounds harsh, but like the thought of like, yeah, no one cares that much. You know what I mean? In terms of, I think the negative things or the anxiety we feel about being our authentic selves. Like, I think maybe a recent situation for myself is, show up to a new team, and one of my favorite things that I love to do in the gym is I cut the sleeves off of my shirt. Right? And yeah, you get the eye roll, you get people making douchey comments, being like, "Oh, you're such a douchebag," or "Oh, you're such a fucking whatever," right? And it's like totally, yes. People make a comment. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I know it is a douchey thing. Whatever. Cut my sleeves off, roll them up, show the arms off." But that's something that makes me so happy and it motivates me. I'm in the gym and I'm doing any exercise, and I'm like, I like the way my arms look right now. It motivates me to do that extra oomph. And it's just like, yeah, it might be perceived in a douchey way, but to me, it's very powerful, and it's very, it brings me a lot of confidence and pushes me to get to do more or to enjoy my experience. And I think that is kind of just, I think it's an analogy that I kind of go back to when I feel a little bit fearful of being like, oh, well, people are going to think I'm a douche, or, oh, people are going to think this. And I'm like, oh, wait, I don't care.
I always think
Right?
about like people are gonna think I'm this, but am
hmm
I this?
hmm
Like people are gonna think you're a douche, but are you a douche?
Usually, I don't think so.
Yeah, in a normal sense, no. So
Yeah.
like, oh, like people are gonna think, I'm whatever.
I think that's something that always kind of pushes me through whenever I'm feeling like I feel really awkward, or I feel like out of place or whatever. I'm like, what's my perspective on this? It's like, do I
Yeah.
like to cut my sleeves off? Hell yeah. Like I remember the first time I thought that I would be remembered for something embarrassing, like the whole whatever. So I think I was in like the I don't know, like sixth grade. This is one of those moments where your heart just drops in your chest or your stomach and you're like, oh. So in like this probably the fifth or sixth grade, and at my elementary school, you all like would sit on the floor and the teachers would sit around, but like the older kids would sit in the back. So I was sitting in the back, and the youngest kids were giving some sort of presentation. And I kid you not, like the quietest kid in probably the entire school is like whispering into the microphone. I think he's reading a poem or something. And I'm sitting in the back row, and I'm sitting right on the floor. And I kid you not, I was like, oh my God, I'm so gassy. And I let one rip. And it was so loud, it like echoed off the floor. Those ones that just like, so I just let this absolute fart rip. And the entire school turns around, looks at me. The people on my left are staring at me. The people on my right are staring at me. Everybody turns around and looks at me. And I just started sweating immediately. And I was like, oh my God, everybody's gonna like remember me as the person who farted at this assembly. And like I thought that was the end, you know? And so that was probably one of my first like really embarrassing moments as a person. And the initial thought was like, this is what I'm gonna be remembered for. But nobody cares. If we could somehow ask the 200 people in that assembly what they thought or if they remembered that story, they probably wouldn't. Or if they did, they would probably tell it in a really funny way and it being hilarious, right? Rather than like, oh my God, my social life is over and da 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 da. And I think about that scenario a lot because whenever something happens, or maybe that was embarrassing, or maybe it wasn't reflective of my character, or whatever it is, it's like, okay, you just make a great story about it and laugh, or you just learn from it and you move forward. And I just think, we have a lot of anxieties as human beings. I think that's very human, but I think the message to kind of remember is that you are human and things happen, and it's really do the things that matter to you. And ultimately, that's the most important thing. Like,
But seriously, probably I would say if there's 200 people in that place, there's probably like 175 of them that have told that story at a party.
I hope so.
I'm like, that's a guess and probably a really good one.
Dude, I remember walking back to the classroom and being like, I'm going to be known as the fart kid forever.
We're going to have people in our comments being like, yep, true. She is fart kid labeled.
Well, if anybody listens to this that was in my class or in my school at the time, let me know if you remember that story.
Please reach out to us. Oh my God, yes, please. That's all you'd like to share with the internet today?
Yeah, good little story.
Okay, on that same note, our action item for this week is we want to hear from you. We want to hear from our audience. We want to hear who listens to this podcast. Why do you listen to this podcast? Where do you listen to it from? So reach out to us through our DMs on either Instagram or Twitter at more than 5 PCT. I'll put it in the show notes. But reach out to us. We want to know, what your name is, where you're listening from, your favorite part about the podcast, and a fun fact about you. We really want
fun facts.
Yes, we really want to connect. We really want to talk to our audience. The whole point is to connect more people with the experiences of women in sport, and we want to connect with you. We want to connect with everyone who's listening to our little voices in their phone or computer or iPad. But yeah, that is all for our Shoot the Shit episode of More Than 5%. Continue pushing the 5%, continue upping the coverage, continue sharing stories of women in the sports sphere, and we'll talk to you next week.
So yeah, bye.
Okay, bye. Love you, bye.
Bye. Love you. Bye.